Hello and welcome to my final on the Relationships and Ethics in Ministry class. I found the information provided in this class to be extremely informative and interesting. As a mental health clinician and a licensed clinical social worker already actively supporting people with mental health issues and struggles, this class brought some very important, near to my heart topics up, and those are what I want to focus on today. I am reminded of a sermon I heard Louis Giglio preach on several years back, and it was really talking about mental health struggles in the church and that the church needs to do better, and I couldn't agree more. And so I want to focus a little bit on what that might look like, where we're kind of struggling now, the impacts on people and the church as a whole, and some possible solutions moving forward. I will say that the depth and breadth that we can get into in this short time is very minimal, so we'll barely scratch the surface of what I think God could do in this area. So as I said in the opening, the areas that I want to focus would be the current church culture, things that are preventing pastors, leaders, and lay persons from seeking help and support, those mental health struggles, specifically with suicidality, depression, anxiety, addiction, etc., and then those creative solutions that we as a church culture could do to solve some of the problems we're having currently. Our current church culture is set up in a way that prevents pastors and ministers from seeking mental health support. It also can trickle down to your general population, because if I am a Christian and I'm a new creation and Jesus has saved me, then I obviously cannot struggle with mental health issues. That's simply not true. I think that if we could address this from church denomination culture down, it's a reminder that we live in a fallen world. We live in a fallen nature that Christ has overcome, and we are constantly being renewed into new creatures in Christ. But that does not mean we will not struggle with mental health, or that if we do, we're not saved or we're not Christians. That, I think, is a really strong sticking point that is impacting every level of Christian, that we're not supposed to admit that we have mental health issues or sin, which by nature of being human in flesh, we are going to battle against until we are not in this fallen world anymore. So that's kind of that current church culture that prevents pastors and ministers from having the freedom to reach out, to admit when they're struggling, and to ask for help. Mental health struggles are real. They're part of being in a fallen world. Nobody is born and is raised in this world without having some kind of damage to them, because we're living with other fallen people. Suicidality is a real thing. It impacts people every day. It impacts our pastors, our leaders, our ministers, who at some point feel like they have no voice, because if I admit I'm struggling here, then I must not be saved, or I'm not fit for duty. But it's not man that makes us fit for duty. It is God who calls and equips us. And he doesn't say we have to be perfect or without struggles to be able to serve. In fact, I believe that it's in our struggling, it's in our ability to ask for help and support, that we are able to reach out and help other people. And so we have mental health issues with depression, anxiety, suicidality thoughts, addictions, whether it's sexual deviation things with pornography, and there's a whole host of things that we as humans struggle with. And just because one person has a position of authority or leadership in the church does not mean they're immune to that. They are still going to have those struggles. So how do we solve this cultural issue within the church? There are a lot of ways that that can be done. I've been praying about that a little bit the last couple of weeks as a mental health clinician myself, ways that I can help and support that. I think at the very top, there needs to be a shift in expectations that our pastors, ministers, people who are leading congregants are expected that they're going to struggle, that this is not taboo or something to be shameful of, but maybe it's written into their position that quarterly or once a month they meet with some kind of counseling that helps open the door for them to speak about things they're struggling with and not that it would set them up to not be fit for duty according to their boards or their congregants, but it would just be this expected duty or obligation that they are having their own mental health support. And then maybe looking at having weekend retreats for pastors and ministers that are focused on mental health awareness, how to notice it, how to address it, and providing opportunities for pastors and ministers and leaders to have access to mental health support that is separate from their close community, that is something that they would be encouraged to engage in, but it would be outside of their area. These are just some of the things. Again, it's a big topic that would take a long time to really dig into. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that this topic hits your heart just as much as it did mine. God bless.